Jaekle, we welcome you to Village in Motion,
Well,
one of
nice.
your favorite spots.
Oh, yes. Well, nice to be with you, Marcia.
Hey, we've been together 10, 11 years.
At least 11.
We kind of started some of those things that are still going on and you're still involved in, right?
I think you came early 1999?
I was here in 98.
98. Okay, you were first of the first
I was
at
in
Parkview.
That's right.
And Chuck and I came in May of 99.
Grove Terrace.
And you were already well known. I think you were the first chair of the Dining Services Committee.
I was.
And then you and I were first on the first RAC.
That's right.
Resident Advisory Council.
Right, and I still wish they'd call it RAC. I like to refer to it as RAC instead of having to go through resident, but we won't go there.
But you could just say council. That fits both.
Yeah, but you see, we started it as, for what it was, advisory, resident advisory council, because it worked well. It worked with management to get this whole thing started, right?
Yeah, I remember. I remember yes.
Some of those starting points.
But I have a long history of working with you and respecting you and counting on you and relying on you.
Oh boy. Well, now let's change the subject because it is you that we
well, I'm trying not to.
I know you. And you've been in the field of education.
I would call myself an educator. That's kind of my life's focus.
That's right. And you were in it and prepared yourself, and you sort of always have been concerned about quality program, quality teaching, quality organizations, etc. Right? Am I right on that?
I would more focused on improvement.
Okay. But that's because you had a score of quality.
Innovation, vision, always wanting something a little different.
And you weren't even a 4-H club member where you made your best better. But that was kind of your motto, wasn't it?
That's not a part of my vocabulary.
Well, what is a part of your vocabulary? What would you say you have brought to the field of education? What were you concerned about when you were in teaching and supervision?
Well, I was actually more interested in my job as a supervisor of English curriculum, or certainly as a school administrator, than I was as a teacher. And teaching was my choice, and it was a challenging thing for me, an introvert teaching adolescents. But it wasn't until I became a school administrator that I began to look at the broad picture. Mm-hmm. And I loved to work with teachers to make changes and to build a sense of culture in the school. Mm-hmm. A culture of teaching and learning, and it's just great fun. I still meet with some of the teachers for lunch.
And that has to be fun.
Yeah.
They probably tell you what you did and how
They've been very supportive.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that it seems to me is those kinds of concerns, quality, improvement, etc., you bring to every activity you're involved in. If you're a committee chair, as you are now, right? You are a chairman.
Well, I look for challenges, what could be different.
How can we improve?
What has not been done the last year or so, or kind of a thing,
I'll bet you engage the committee members in discussions like that? Well, how can we?
Well, they engage me.
But isn't that fun?
But it's great. You're talking about the finance committee now.
I'm talking about the finance committee.
Okay. It's a wonderful committee, and we have different views, and we have, I think, really good discussions. And I like to play the devil's advocate and take opposite positions and say things that I don't usually hear residents saying, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And try to eventually create a consensus.
and people enjoy that.
I hope.
Well,
I do. I have fun with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, Ann, I don't want us to miss out as if you're all businesswoman, all chair, all committee, all this and that, because you kind of had an interesting personal life too, beyond your professional, right?
Yes.
Right. Your husband was, well, everybody knows your husband.
Everybody knows Chuck.
Chuck Jaekle, yeah. But you got involved with him in some of his professional work, right? Tell us about it.
Oh, yes, I did. He, most people at Grease Spring think of him as an Episcopal priest, which he is. But his specialty in his ministry was as what they called a pastoral psychotherapist, a counselor. Mm-hmm. And he also specialized in marriage counseling.
Now be careful, because we're not doing his who's who. We're doing
I know. He's much more interesting.
Well, we'll get to him. But how does that affect you? What did you do?
Well, how did it affect me? I mean, I was busy in my job. I think I was at Lake Braddock at the time. And that could be a 50, 60, 70 hour a week job. And he said he wanted to start a marriage enrichment group.
Marriage enrichment
group.
Okay.
Now, he wasn't talking about weekend retreats or something like that. He thought of getting 6 couples together, 2 hours a week, 30 weeks. I mean, this was an in-depth, long-term kind of a thing.
Okay. And where do you? Why are we mentioning?
Well, he wanted a co-leader in marriage enrichment, and since we were married,
you were demonstrating.
He was looking at me.
You were demonstrating enriched marriage, huh?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
We made a great contribution when we shared our difficulties. Mm-hmm. We really did. It was amazing.
What did they do?
And we were challenged ourselves in some ways in our own marriage, and we did in our leadership work with the whole group, and it was pretty much like dynamite. Mm-hmm. Because we coalesced we had many groups, maybe like 6 years, but having the support of other couples, being able to role play. It was back in the time when it was getting more and more common to have 2 career marriages, mm-hmm, both people working. And the whole role, that I grew up with, that I would be the homemaker and take care of the home, and he would go out and work in the world, was changing. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, so did our roles in our marriage change. And so we had to learn a whole new way of communicating with each other.
Now, I want to toss in here, while you were doing this, were there children in the picture then?
By this time, they were in college. They were out of the house. We had 2
They were up and out.
Up and out, yes. We had 2 sons, and had a wonderful time with them, and I remember wonderful camping trips and all that. But when they both left home, we just ran around the house in freedom and celebrated, and really went back and developed a new marriage.
Like I was the last of 7 children, and when I was like leaving home, my father said, "Well, I guess we're going to have to fill the house with African violets." So that was his remedy for my departure, the last one to depart. So did you fill your house with African violets?
No. Chuck and I got reacquainted and started doing more things together and traveling, and it was a great time. The empty nest for us was very full.
But because of by this time in your professional careers, you were working together in this one group, but you were still in the school system, or had you retired?
Yes, definitely. I was working. Well, the wonderful thing about it was that, as you know, Chuck has a very dominant personality.
I think,
And
yes.
as you know, I'm really a very introverted, a very shy person. So in the marriage enrichment groups, here again, it was a challenge for me. So I enrolled in courses and training and interning, all kinds of things, to learn the skills of marriage and family therapy. And I became a clinical member of the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. Well, what I learned was what I was learning to help me be a co-leader in the marriage enrichment programs. I could also use in my work at school.
Mm-hmm.
I could use with teachers. I could use helping people with relationships, teacher-student, student-student. I learned a lot about how you build a group too, which I'm fascinated with that.
And you practice it. You
Oh yeah.
You know, you're, and this is why what contributes to your effectiveness as a leader. You've put these things together. You know of ways to bring out the best in
Well, I know a
groups.
lot about group dynamics.
Right.
I always wish I knew more, and I haven't been practicing it, but it is a part of me at this point.
Mm-hmm. You gave me something to look over where you were referring to a very dominant woman in our history.
Oh yeah.
and some of what. So tell us a little bit about why you refer to her in relation to your own work.
Well,
And tell us who we're talking.
one of my challenges, whatever I do, has been that I am shy. I'm really not comfortable. Put me in a cocktail party where I don't have a subject, and I just have to go find an extrovert and tack on.
You're kind of a wallflower.
And I got one. I live with one.
Yeah, you're right.
So, lo and behold, in March, I think it was Christy Porto, who's the manager of Jefferson Dining Room, called me and asked me if I would speak to the staff on women's history. It had to do with Women's History Month. So I, of course, went to the internet and tried to find out, what is Women's History Month? What are we doing with that? And of course, they talked about the feminists, which is very interesting because I lived through that period. I was very much influenced, but I never considered myself a feminist. But anyway, in the process of, I had to speak. Here I am again, public speaking. Ugh. So with that, the only way I can do it and be comfortable is I have to write it out ahead of time. So that's when I did my research, and I came across a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, it really builds character and is really a good thing in the long run when you face fear in the face And she said I had to learn to do the thing that I think I cannot do.
I
have
had
to learn. I have to do the things. I have to do what I think I cannot do.
Uh-huh.
And
Do
I
you,
even
you
felt.
keep that in your hip pocket now?
And I even felt that way. You know, when you called me and said, would I speak on Who's Who, be interviewed, because I trust you, and I say, oh, that's easy. I'll just answer her questions. And I said, yes. Well, the next day, I'm saying, I can't do this. I mean, there's nothing, when I think of my life, there's nothing that comes to Who's Who status. So if she asks me about, to talk about that, I have nothing to say. And so I asked Chuck if he would take my place. And he said no.
Yeah. And what you didn't know is I wouldn't let him.
And you wouldn't. And this morning I saw it on Channel 6, Who's Who, and Jaekle, and I said, I think I'm going to have to do what I believe I cannot do.
Well, I think this is wonderful, really, because people see you in positions of leadership, and now they can feel with you. You may even get more cooperation than you've mustered up in the past.
Yes, when I'm down, I get a lot of support.
Well, the whole go ahead.
A lot more support than when I'm appearing strong.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful that she had confidence? I hope we can fulfill it. No, what we're doing is we've seen Ann Jaekle's name. I mean, you were on our board of governors, directors.
Board of directors.
They're board of governors to me. But board of directors. How did you manage
for
that?
six years, and
6
it was
years.
one of the most interesting, wonderful experiences I've had since I've been at Green Spring. And I have no problem in a small group. There are 9 people on the board. I had no problem. And there was also a high level of trust among the board members. And it was great. But when I had to make a speech to the residents and tell them about something about the board, it's like, what can I say?
Well, and I will be surprised if somebody doesn't stop you in the hall and say, Ann, I know what you're feeling. I'll bet somebody will within the next days, because we have people who have been in all sorts of levels of administration, of leadership, of performance, etc. And I'm sure there are others who have sort of been shy, introvert, etc. But have been pulled out.
I remember when we were working together on the rack that you were invited by the people at headquarters at Ericsson to go up to headquarters and speak to a big room full of managers and the staff at Ericsson. And I heard from some managers that you were really fantastic. And so I said to you, what did you say? And you said, oh, I don't know. I can't remember what I said. I just get up and talk.
You're telling secrets now, and I don't think it's fair. You've turned the table.
But that, apparently that's not, I admire that you could do that.
Well, you know the song, Doing What Comes Naturally?
Yeah.
There are some things that come naturally, and have been. But at any rate, okay, so what, here at Green Spring, what are the most exciting things that you kind of come up close to and get involved in here? What pulls out?
Well, I think all
For
of, you know, in the 12 years I've lived here, I think 11 years I've either been on the council, on the board. I didn't do anything in 2009. Now I'm with the finance committee. And they were all extremely important to me. But the fun thing that I did for 10 years was just plain fun, was the computer club.
Aha,
And when I first came here, I went to a meeting because like everybody else, I don't like to be alone with my computer. I want to be able to call somebody and get help. And Georgia Weatherhead was leading a group of about 30 residents. I think Frank Richardson was helping and other people. And Georgia said to me, in early days of Green Spring, there weren't many people volunteering to do things. The management, community resources, actually called the meeting to start a computer club. And so they turned to Georgia, and she said, you know why they turned to me? She said, I was a first grade teacher, and I was used to talking to a group of people. So anyway, one day I went to a meeting, and Georgia said, well, I've been chair long enough. I nominate so-and-so, I nominate so-and-so. Nobody wanted to do it. So I said to Chuck, nobody wants to do the computer club. And he said, well, you do it. So, so I went back and I volunteered myself. And helping people with the computer and getting residents who knew more than the rest of us to help residents with the computer and just get that organized and work with that. It was pure joy. People used to call me all day long, and Chuck would say, you're getting a lot of calls. And I said, yes, and I love it.
Okay, Ann, I want to pick up on that because I want to highlight it for everyone to hear. This is not just Ann Jaekle. I'm not trying to puff you up. But what you're saying is that you yourself were rewarded by what you had given to other residents.
Well, that's the teacher in me. I love to see people learn.
Well, but is it not also a good point for residents to say, oh, that's why she gets into this, because she enjoys, or
Absolutely.
he enjoys. Isn't that a lesson for newcomers to say, don't stay in your apartment. Get out there and share your talents,
That's the way.
share your joys, right?
That's the way to get involved.
That's
and
how
it
you-
does have big payoff.
The payoff is the happiness, the reward you get when you see somebody else enjoying what you've just taught them. That's Green Spring. That motto
Yes.
that we like to repeat. I like to repeat it. We share our gifts to create a community that celebrates life. Isn't that what?
And it works.
And it works, and it works. And Ann is a marvelous example
Well,
of
thank
that.
you.
And it also, I want to take this opportunity to say that there are other residents out there, lots of residents who have very interesting backgrounds, and I invite them to get in touch with me, and let's talk about sharing as you've shared today, because that's what the community is about, right?
Right.
Okay, and can you add to that?
I don't want to try to add to that.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, we're going to, and just in case people are wondering, well, how come Ann has gotten ahead of Chuck and who's who. We're gonna invite Chuck and talk about his background and these sorts of things. So we just haven't gotten there yet, but we will. So with that, Ann, I'm going to say thank you so much. I know what a joy this was for you. You just told us, but we're going to talk about the future now.